Hey guys, and tonight we're off to a time of monumental upheaval, cannon smoke, and dusty, sun-baked earth. Imagine yourself in the stifling heat of the Egyptian desert in 1799. You're not a tourist. You're a French soldier, part of Napoleon's grand and arguably ill-conceived expedition. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, gunpowder, and sand that gets into absolutely everything. You're tired, you're thirsty, and you're tasked with demolishing an ancient wall to expand a fort. It's backbreaking, monotonous work under a relentless sun. Honestly, given the disease, the combat, and the questionable water supply, you probably wouldn't survive this. The odds are stacked against you. But as you swing your pickaxe one more time, it strikes something with a dull, resonant thud. It's not mud brick, it's stone, dark, and inscribed. You've just stumbled upon the key that will unlock a 3,000-year-old mystery. So, before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy what we do here. We'd also love to see where and when you're listening from, so feel free to post your city and local time in the comments below. It's always a quiet thrill to see how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe put a fan on for some gentle background hum, and let's get cozy for tonight's journey. You wipe the sweat from your brow, your rough wool uniform scratching at your neck as you kneel down beside your fellow soldiers. Your commander, a lieutenant named Pierre-Francois Bouchard, is called over. He's an engineer, a man of education, and he sees it immediately. This isn't just rubble. It's a slab of granodiorite, about the size of a coffee table, and it's covered in writing. But not just one kind of writing. 3 distinct bands of script are carved into its surface. The top one is a cascade of tiny, intricate pictures, birds, reeds, stylized human figures, and geometric shapes. This is the language of the pharaohs, the sacred hieroglyphs that have baffled scholars for over a millennium. Below it is a flowing, cursive-like script, which you later learn is Demotic, a more common form of ancient Egyptian writing. And at the very bottom, a script that Bouchard and the other officers can actually read. Ancient Greek. Your heart gives a little flutter of excitement that has nothing to do with the heat. A trilingual inscription. It's a parallel text, a single decree from some long-dead king, written out for all his subjects to understand. It's a potential dictionary, a cheat sheet, a key. The savants, 167 scholars, scientists, and artists Napoleon brought with him are summoned. They descend upon the stone like vultures on a fresh kill. Their academic excitement, a stark contrast to the weary pragmatism of the soldiers. They know, with a certainty that feels electric, that this stone, found near the town of Rashid, or Rosetta, as you French call, it is the most important thing to be unearthed in centuries. Common knowledge holds that Napoleon's Egyptian campaign was as much about enlightenment as it was about conquest, bringing a legion of academics to document the ancient land. What's less known is the sheer logistical chaos of it all. They brought a printing press with Arabic type, but forgot essential tools for excavation, leading to much improvisation. You watch them make ink rubbings, their hands moving with a delicate reverence. The air buzzes, but there's a problem. The British, led by Lord Nelson, have just obliterated the French fleet at the Battle of the Nile. Your army is stranded. This precious stone, this key to a lost world, is now sitting in a war zone, a priceless artifact in a camp of defeated soldiers. Its future is as uncertain as your own. Historians still debate the extent to which the French soldiers understood the stone's significance compared to the instant recognition by the savants. Was it just another big rock to the men doing the digging, or did a sense of its historical gravity permeate the ranks? It's hard to say. For you, the soldier, it's a brief, strange interlude in a campaign of misery. A cool, dark stone in a world of blinding, hot sand. It feels like a secret whispered from the ancient world, a secret you have no way of understanding. You just hope it doesn't get you all killed. It's probably worth more than your entire platoon, which isn't the most comforting thought when you're thousands of miles from home. The stone is packed away, a silent witness to the clash of modern empires on the dust of an ancient one. The stone doesn't stay with the French for long. The dream of a French Eastern Empire dissolves in the Egyptian heat. After your army's surrender in 1801, a bitter and protracted negotiation begins between the French and the victorious British. It's not about land or prisoners. It's about the loot. The academic loot. The French savants argue passionately that their findings, including the Rosetta Stone, are their private property, the fruits of their scientific labor. They threaten to toss all their research into the sea rather than hand it over. One particularly dramatic scholar, Etienne Geoffroy Saint-Hilaire, declares to the English, "We shall burn our riches ourselves. Count on history to condemn you." It's high academic drama played out in sweaty tents while soldiers stand guard. The British, however, have the leverage of a superior military position. A popular bit of trivia is that the Rosetta Stone was formally ceded to the British in the Treaty of Alexandria. A more obscure detail is the cat-and-mouse game that preceded it. General Jacques Francois de Manot, the French commander, tried to smuggle the stone out of the country, claiming it was his personal baggage. The British weren't buying it. A quick-witted English scholar named William Richard Hamilton tracked it down, and a tense standoff ensued. The stone was eventually located, wrapped in blankets in a warehouse, and a British officer had to physically place it under armed guard to prevent it from disappearing. It's a bit like two kids on a playground arguing, "I found it first," versus, "Yeah, but I won the game, so it's mine now." The stone is loaded onto a captured French frigate, ironically renamed HMS L'Egyptian, and sails for Portsmouth, England. It arrives in 1802, a grand prize of war, and is presented to King George III before finding its permanent home in the British Museum. There, it is put on display for the public, its cryptic message now a challenge to the greatest minds in Europe. While this international custody battle unfolds, you are a world away. You are no longer a soldier. You are now a boy, barely 8 years old, living in the small town of Figeac in southern France. Your name is Jean-François Champollion. You are a strange, intense child with dark, burning eyes and a mind that moves far too quickly for your own good. You are a prodigy, but a difficult one. Restless, prone to fits of temper and deep melancholy, you struggle with formal schooling. But you have a gift, an all-consuming passion for languages. While other boys are playing outside, you are hunched over books. Your world defined by the strange and beautiful shapes of foreign alphabets. Your older brother, Jacques-Joseph, a brilliant scholar in his own right, recognizes your unique talent and becomes your mentor, your protector, and your relentless taskmaster. One day, Jacques-Joseph takes you to see a collection of Egyptian artifacts brought back by a veteran of Napoleon's campaign. You stare, mesmerized, at a papyrus scroll covered in the same bird and lion and red figures as the top script on that famous stone everyone is talking about. The owner tells you that no one can read them. A fire is lit within you. You are not just curious, you are indignant. How can a whole civilization, one that built the pyramids, simply be silent? In a moment of what could be seen as either childish bravado or profound destiny, you declare, "I will be the one to read them. I will do it." It becomes your life's mission, an obsession that will shape every decision you make from this day forward. Historians still debate whether your famous declaration was a genuine childhood promise or a story embellished later to create a more compelling personal myth. But regardless of its origin, the sentiment was undeniably real. You are now set on a path, a collision course with a slab of black granodiorite sitting in a London museum. You don't know it yet, but you have just enlisted in a new kind of war of intellect. A race against time and against brilliant rivals to give a voice back to the pharaohs. Your only weapon will be your mind. Your teenage years are a blur of ink-stained fingers and fading candlelight, while others your age are navigating the complexities of social life. You are navigating the complexities of ancient grammar. You have moved to Grenoble to live with your brother, Jacques-Joseph, who guides your ferocious appetite for knowledge. Your curriculum is insane by any standard. you don't just learn languages, you devour them. Latin and Greek are mere appetizers. You move on to Hebrew, Arabic, Syriac, Chaldean, and Aramaic. You believe, correctly, that to understand a dead language, you must understand its neighbors and its descendants. Your contemporaries see you as a prodigy, but also as something of an oddity. You are pale, thin, and your eyes, which you will have trouble with your whole life, are often retrimmed from lack of sleep and endless reading. Your social skills, to put it mildly, are underdeveloped. You have no time for pleasantries. You have time only for the puzzle, the great puzzle of Egypt. Your most important linguistic pursuit, the one that sets you apart from everyone else chipping away at the Rosetta Stone, is Coptic. This is a common fact about your story. Your mastery of Coptic was the key. But people often misunderstand why. Coptic is the final stage of the ancient Egyptian language, written with the Greek alphabet, plus a few extra letters derived from Demotic script. It was the language of the Christian Egyptians, the Copts, and though it was dying out as a spoken language, it was still preserved in their liturgy, while other scholars were treating the hieroglyphs as a purely symbolic picture language. You had a revolutionary idea. What if Coptic was simply the old language of the pharaohs in a different outfit? If you could master Coptic, you wouldn't just be guessing at the meaning of Egyptian words. You would know them. You would know their sounds, their cadence, their soul. You dedicate yourself to it with a frightening intensity. A lesser-known fact is that at the age of 16, you presented a paper to the Academy of Grenoble, arguing that the language spoken by the Copts was, in fact, the language of ancient Egypt. You were so passionate and your arguments so compelling that the members of the Academy, all men decades your senior, rose to their feet and applauded, electing you as a member on the spot. It was a moment of incredible validation, but it was also isolating. You are a boy genius in a world of established men. You are impatient, arrogant, and utterly convinced of your own destiny. You make few friends. Your brother is your only true confidant, the steady hand that manages your finances, your correspondence, and your volatile moods. He believes in you with an almost religious fervor, and you lean on that belief. Historians still debate the nature of your relationship with Jacques Joseph. Was he a selfless supporter of your genius, or a frustrated scholar living vicariously through his more brilliant younger brother, pushing you to the brink of collapse for the sake of a shared ambition? The truth is likely a complex mixture of both. You spend your days in libraries, not just reading books, but seemingly absorbing them through your skin. You compile your own Coptic dictionary because the existing ones are not good enough. You practice speaking the dead language to yourself, trying to feel its rhythm in your mouth. You're not just studying a language. You're attempting a resurrection. You're trying to learn to think like an ancient Egyptian. It's a lonely, exhausting crusade. The headaches that'll plague you for the rest of your life are becoming more frequent. But in the quiet of the library, with the smell of old paper and beeswax in the air, you can almost hear the whispers from the Nile. And you just know that you are getting closer. The world outside your library walls is in turmoil. Napoleon's star is falling, and the political landscape of France is a constantly shifting minefield. You and your brother, known for your Bonapartist sympathies, find yourselves on the wrong side of history when the monarchy is restored. Politics, for you, is a frustrating and dangerous distraction from your real work. You are briefly exiled from Grenoble, accused of treason, and forced to return to your provincial hometown of Figeac. It's a humiliating setback. The libraries are smaller, the resources are scarcer, and you feel the ticking of the clock more acutely than ever. You are terrified that someone else will solve the puzzle before you. And you have every reason to be. Your chief rival is a man in England named Thomas Young. Young is, in many ways, your polar opposite. He is not a linguist, but a polymatha physician, a physicist, and a brilliant scientist who made significant contributions to the wave theory of light, the mechanics of vision, and engineering. To him, the Rosetta Stone is not a sacred text, but a code, a scientific problem to be solved with logic and mathematical precision. He approaches the demotic script first, treating it like a cryptogram. He painstakingly compares it to the Greek, isolating repeated groups of signs and matching them to recurring Greek words like king, Ptolemy, and Egypt. A well-known fact is that Thomas Young was the first to correctly identify that the signs in the cartouche, oval rings drawn around certain hieroglyphs, spelled out the names of royal rulers phonetically. He correctly identified the name Ptolemy in a cartouche on the Rosetta Stone. This was a monumental breakthrough. For centuries, everyone had assumed hieroglyphs were purely symbolic or ideographic. A picture of a bird meant bird. Young proved that sometimes a picture of a bird was just a sound, a letter in an alphabet. But this is where Young's progress stalls. He is a man of science, not of language. He can't shake the belief that this phonetic aspect is a late development used only for spelling out foreign names, like the Greek Ptolemy. He does unmake the intuitive leap that the entire system might be a complex hybrid of phonetic and symbolic signs. A more obscure fact about Young's work is his use of a papyrus scroll known as the Kassat papyrus. He compared the demotic script on it with the hieratic, a cursive form of hieroglyphs, and the hieroglyphic versions of the same text, creating a sort of mini Rosetta Stone that helped him build a rudimentary, demotic vocabulary. It was clever, methodical work, but it lacked the linguistic soul you are cultivating. You receive copies of Young's work through the scholarly grapevine. As you read his findings, your heart sinks. He's so close. He has found a piece of the key, but you know he is using it on the wrong part of the lock. You are filled with a mixture of dread and a fierce, competitive fire. The race is on. Historians still debate just how much you borrowed from Young's initial findings. Your detractors, then and now, claim you built your success directly on his foundation without giving him proper credit. Your supporters argue that Young had found a few isolated letters, while you were the one who would discover the entire grammar and soul of the language. The argument is, in essence, about who gets the credit. The person who first realizes a key fits a lock, or the person who figures out how to turn it and open the door. Back in Figik, you work with renewed desperation. You feel like you re-fighting a battle on two fronts, against the political forces that have exiled you, and against the brilliant English physicist who is threatening to steal your life's purpose. You write frantic letters to your brother, filled with despair one day and feverish excitement the next. You are running out of time, money, and patience. The weight of your childhood promise feels heavier than ever. Your exile in Fagig is a period of intense frustration, but also profound focus. Stripped of your teaching duties and academic distractions in Grenoble, there is nothing left but the work. You and Jacques Joseph rent a small, cramped apartment, and you turn one room into your command center. You cover the walls with charts, transcriptions of hieroglyphs, lists of Coptic words, and copies of Young's publications. It looks less like a scholar's study and more like the den of a madman. A beautiful mind on the brink of a breakthrough or a breakdown. You barely eat, you barely sleep. Your headaches are a constant, throbbing companion. Your brother worries about your health, but he also knows that this obsessive fire is the source of your genius. You spend hours staring at a copy of the inscriptions from the Philae obelisk, an artifact that had recently been brought to England. Like the Rosetta Stone, it has inscriptions in both Greek and Egyptian hieroglyphs. The Greek text mentions two royal names, Ptolemy and Cleopatra. This is your chance. The Rosetta Stone gave you Ptolemy. If Young is right, and the cartouches contain phonetic spellings of royal names, then the name Cleopatra on the obelisk should share some signs with Ptolemy. It's a simple, elegant test of the phonetic theory. You lay the transcriptions outside, Ptolly, Keope Tara. You carefully identify the signs. The sign for P in Ptolemy is a square mat. It's the first sign in his cartouche. You look at Cleopatra's cartouche. The fifth sign is the same square mat. It works. The L in Ptolemy is a lion. The second sign in Cleopatra is the same lion. It works again. The O is a knotted rope. It appears in both names. One by one, you match the sounds to the signs. The eagle is A. The hand is T. You feel a surge of adrenaline, a jolt of pure intellectual ecstasy. You have just created a small alphabet of phonetic hieroglyphs. This confirmation of the phonetic principle in royal names is a well-documented and crucial step in your process. A less-known fact is the sheer physical labor and difficulty involved. The copies of inscriptions you were working from were often inaccurate, hand-drawn by artists who didn't understand what they were seeing. A slight error in the drawing of a sign could send you down a rabbit hole for weeks. You were essentially trying to solve a puzzle where some of the pieces were warped or drawn by a person who had never seen the full picture. It required an incredible amount of cross-referencing and intuitive guesswork to filter out the noise from the signal. You now have a partial key, a set of about a dozen phonetic signs, but you are acutely aware of the same trap that ensnared Thomas Young. Are these sounds only used for foreign Greek rulers like Ptolemy and Cleopatra? Or does the phonetic principle apply to native Egyptian pharaohs as well? This is the million-franc question. If it's the latter, then the entire system, the entire language, is within your grasp. If it's the former, then you are only at the very beginning, with no way to read the vast majority of Egyptian texts. Historians still debate the exact moment you moved past Young's theory. Was it a gradual process, or was there a single eureka moment? Some sources suggest you clung to the idea of a purely symbolic system for native names for a surprisingly long time, almost reluctant to let go of the old theories. It was as if you had to exhaust every other possibility before accepting the revolutionary truth that was staring you in the face. You are standing on the edge of a precipice. You have more pieces of the puzzle than anyone else in history. You have the phonetic alphabet from the Greek names. You have your unparalleled knowledge of Coptic, the ghost of the ancient language. All you need is a name, a purely Egyptian name, a pharaoh's name, locked in a cartouche, a name for which there is no Greek translation to guide you. You begin frantically searching through collections of copied inscriptions for the right cartouche to test your hypothesis. The hunt is on. The political winds shift again, and thanks to your brother's tireless lobbying, your exile is ended. You are able to move to Paris, the intellectual heart of France and the world. This is both a blessing and a curse. The resources are unparalleled. The royal library is filled with texts, and the city is a hub for scholars returning from Egypt with new material. But the pressure is also immense. You are now in the spotlight, and your rivalry with Thomas Young becomes more direct and more public. The academic world is divided into two camps, Team Champollion and Team Young. It's the 19th century equivalent of an online flame war, conducted through scholarly journals and sharply worded letters. The English champion, their man, the brilliant, methodical scientist. The French, still smarting from the military defeat in Egypt and the loss of the Rosetta Stone, rally behind you, their linguistic prodigy. National pride is at stake. You feel the weight of an entire country's expectations on your shoulders. Sustained by black coffee and sheer obsession, Jacques Joseph continues to act as your manager, fielding correspondence and shielding you from the worst of the academic politics so you can focus. A common misconception is that you and Young were bitter, personal enemies who never communicated. In reality, you corresponded, albeit cautiously. You visited London in 1824 after your major breakthrough and met with Young. The meeting was civil but cool. You acknowledged his early work on the Demotic script, but you were careful to position his contribution as a mere stepping stone to your own complete system. Young, for his part, felt you had not given him nearly enough credit for the initial phonetic discovery. A more obscure and telling detail is that during your time in Paris, before the decipherment, you deliberately avoided any direct collaboration. At one point, a French scholar tried to arrange a meeting for you and Young to pool your resources. You politely declined. You knew this was a race, and you were determined to cross the finish line alone. You couldn't risk him seeing your Coptic notes or understanding the depth of your linguistic approach. It was a calculated, strategic isolation. You are poring over copies of inscriptions from the temple at Abu Simbel in Nubia. You come across a cartouche containing a name that is clearly not Greek. It begins with a circle, the sun. You know from your studies of Egyptian mythology that the Coptic word for sun is Ra or Ra. The next sign at the circle, Ra. The next sign is one you haven't been able to identify. The last two signs are identical. It S, a sign you have already identified from the Ptolemy Cleopatra alphabet as having the sound of S. So the name looks like Ra. S, S, you are stuck. The middle symbol is a mystery. You set the drawing aside, your head throbbing with frustration. The answer is right there, tantalizingly close, but your mind is a fog of exhaustion. You feel like you're trying to see through a dusty window. You can make out shapes, but nothing is clear. You push the books away and pace your small room, the floorboards groaning under your restless feet. You are haunted by the possibility that you've reached your limit, that the final piece of the puzzle is beyond your grasp. Historians still debate how much the intense nationalism of the post-Napoleonic era fueled your rivalry with Young. Were you both purely driven by the pursuit of knowledge? Or was the desire to claim this intellectual prize for France or England a significant motivator? Your private letters are filled with patriotic fervor, suggesting that reclaiming this piece of ancient history was, for you, a way of winning a battle that had been lost on the sands of Egypt. The pressure is mounting, and your health is beginning to show the strain. The solution, you feel, is so close you can almost taste it, but it remains stubbornly, maddeningly out of reach. Your focus shifts, as it often does when you hit a wall. You believe that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to walk around it and look at it from a different angle. You temporarily set aside the raw SS cartouche and turn your attention to another, simpler one. This one contains only 3 signs. First, a stylized ibis bird. Second, the same mystery sign from the Abu symbol cartouche. And third, a simple shepherd's crook. You know from your deep dive into Egyptian religion and mythology that the ibis is the sacred animal of the god Thoth, the deity of writing, wisdom, and magic. This is a common historical fact, the association of Thoth with the abyss. So, you reason, perhaps the first sign is not phonetic, but ideographic. Perhaps the picture of the ibis simply stands for the name of the god, Thoth. Now you look at the last 2 signs, the mystery sign and the sign for S. The name would be THOTH. S. It doesn't immediately ring any bells. You stare at it, your mind racing through your vast Coptic vocabulary. You feel a familiar spark, a connection forming in the complex web of your linguistic knowledge. You remember a detail about the name Ptolemy, spelled Ptollys in Greek. The hieroglyphic version on the Rosetta stone simply spelled Ptolmes. You realize the name is not just a collection of letters, it's a sound. And sometimes signs are combined to make a single sound. What if the mystery sign and the S sign together form a single syllable? Thothmes, Thothmes. The name hits you like a physical blow. Thutmose, the name of one of the greatest pharaohs of the New Kingdom, a name known from classical Greek histories. The sound mes or mes in Coptic means to be born or child of. So the name literally means born of the god Thoth. It's perfect, it's elegant, and it changes everything. A less known and rather quirky aspect of this process was your use of what could be called linguistic reverse engineering. You would take a known pharaoh's name from a Greek text, like Maneto's history, and then try to re-Egyptianize it using Coptic, guessing what its component parts might have been. Then you would hunt for a cartouche that seemed to match your hypothetical construction. It was a highly intuitive, almost artistic process that infuriated more methodical scholars like Young. Your heart is hammering in your chest. You now have the value of the mystery sign. It represents the sound mies. You scramble through your messy piles of notes, your hands shaking, searching for the drawing from Abu symbol. You find it, the circle, Ra. The mystery sign you now know is mies. The two S signs, Ramses, another great pharaoh, born of the god Ra. It fits. It's not just a string of phonetic signs. It's a beautiful, complex combination. The first sign is an ideogram for a god's name, Ra, and the following signs spell out a Coptic word, mies, phonetically. This is the moment of revelation. Hieroglyphs are not one thing. They are not purely symbolic, nor are they purely phonetic. They are a complex, ingenious, multi-layered system that uses ideograms, a picture for a word, phonograms, a picture for a sound, and determinatives, a sign to indicate the category of a word all at once, sometimes in the same word. It's as if the ancient Egyptians were writing in a language, a rebus puzzle and a secret code all at the same time. Historians still debate the intellectual chain of events of this specific day. While the story of you rushing to your brother's office is famous, the precise order in which you deciphered Thutmose and Ramesses is a subject of some scholarly discussion, pieced together from your scattered notes. But the result is undisputed. You have shattered the puzzle. You have found the master key. The system has revealed itself to you. It's not a simple alphabet. It's a symphony. It is September 14th, 1822. The date is burned into your memory forever. You have been working for days with almost no food or rest, fueled by the thrill of the chase. The Thutmose and Ramesses cartouches have opened the floodgates. You grab text after text, applying your new understanding of the hybrid system. Names and words that were once opaque symbols now leap off the page, speaking to you across millennia. You can see it all, the frenetic spellings, the symbolic representations of gods, the silent determinatives at the end of words, clarifying their meaning. It all makes a beautiful, logical sense. You are no longer guessing. You are reading. You feel a dizzying sense of power, like a blind man who has suddenly been given sight. The silent civilization of Egypt has found its voice, and you are the first person to hear it in 1,500 years. The weight of this realization is crushing, exhilarating. You gather your notes, a chaotic jumble of papers covered in your spidery handwriting. You can barely contain yourself. You have to tell Jacques Joseph. He is the only other person in the world who can understand the magnitude of what has just happened. You burst out of your small garret room and run down the street to the Institut de France, where your brother works. You don't notice the people on the street. the carriages clattering over the cobblestones. Your entire universe has collapsed into this single, explosive discovery. You find Jacques Joseph in his office, poring over some manuscript. Do you burst through the door, wild-eyed and disheveled? You throw your bundle of papers onto his desk and shout the now famous words, asterisk, G. Tens, l'affaire, asterisk, I've got it. You then proceed in a torrent of frenzied, brilliant explanation to show him everything. You point to the cartouches, explaining the interplay of sound and symbol. Your brother, the ever-calm and steadying influence, listens with growing astonishment. He sees it. He understands. You have done it. The goal you both have worked toward for 2 decades has been achieved. The sheer, overwhelming force of this moment, the culmination of a life's obsession, the release of years of pent-up frustration and hope is too much for your frail, exhausted body to handle. As your explanation finishes, your adrenaline vanishes, and the full weight of your physical neglect crashes down upon you. You collapse. You faint, dead away on the floor of your brother's office. This dramatic collapse is a famous part of your story. What's less frequently mentioned is the state of your health leading up to it. Your letters from this period are filled with complaints of debilitating migraines, stomach ailments, and episodes of what you called nervous crisis. Your faint was not just a moment of dramatic flair. It was the inevitable result of a man who had been systematically sacrificing his physical health at the altar of his intellectual obsession for years. You remain in a semi-conscious, bedridden state for the next 5 days. It's as if your mind, having achieved its lifelong goal, simply switched off your body to recover. Your brother watches over you, handling your affairs and protecting you. From the outside world, he understands that you have not just made a discovery. You have pushed yourself to the very edge of human endurance. Historians still debate the psychological toll of the decipherment. Did you suffer from a form of burnout, or was it a more profound nervous breakdown brought on by the sudden release of unimaginable pressure? It's impossible to diagnose from this distance, but it's clear that the moment of your greatest triumph was also a moment of complete personal collapse. When you finally emerge from your stupor, you are weak, but your mind is clear. The fire is gone, replaced by a calm, quiet certainty. The race is over. You have won. Now, all that remains is to tell the world. 2 weeks later, on September 27th, 1822, you are standing before the esteemed members of the Académie des Inscriptions, E.T. Bell's Letters, in Paris. The room is packed. Your brother sits in the front row, his face a mask of proud anxiety. Thomas Young happens to be in Paris and is also in the audience, a fact that adds a thick layer of tension to the proceedings. He sits with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. This is your moment to officially announce your discovery to the world. You are just 31 years old, but you look older. You are pale and thin from your recent collapse, but your eyes burn with the same intensity as they did when you were a boy. You begin to read your paper, now famously known as the letter R.M. Dacier. Your voice is steady, betraying none of the frantic energy of 2 weeks prior. You lay out your system with cool, irrefutable logic. You start by acknowledging the work of others, including a brief, almost dismissive nod, too young for his work on the Demotic script and the Ptolemy cartouche. Then you move on. Roman names can be applied to the names of native pharaohs. You use your blockbuster examples, Thutmose and Ramesses. You explain the hybrid nature of the script, the beautiful, intricate dance between signs for sounds and signs for ideas. You are not just presenting a list of decoded letters. You are unveiling the very structure, the grammatical and philosophical soul of the ancient Egyptian language. You are, in effect, teaching them to read. The audience is spellbound. For most of them, hieroglyphs have been nothing more than mystical, decorative symbols. You are telling them they are a living, breathing language, as complex and nuanced as Greek or Latin. It is a paradigm shift of seismic proportions. A widely known aspect of this event is its impact. It marks the birth of modern Egyptology. Before this moment, studying ancient Egypt was a matter of guesswork and speculation based on Greek and biblical sources. After this moment, Egypt could finally speak for itself. A more obscure detail concerns Thomas Young's immediate reaction. According to eyewitnesses, after your lecture concluded, Young was one of the first to approach you. He was outwardly cordial, congratulating you on your findings. But later that night, at a social gathering, he was heard making pointed remarks, cornering other scholars to show them his own earlier publications, trying to ensure that his role as the first to discover the phonetic key was not erased from the story. The battle for credit had just begun. He would soon publish his own account, titled An Account of Some Recent Discoveries in Hieroglyphical Literature and Egyptian Antiquities, including the author's original alphabet, in a clear attempt to stake his claim. Historians still debate the fairness of your letter M. Dacier. Were you being deliberately disingenuous by downplaying Young's contribution? Or did you genuinely believe his work was so incomplete as to be a mere footnote to your grand, unified theory? Your supporters would say you had no obligation to credit a rival who had reached a dead end. Your detractors claim it was a moment of profound intellectual dishonesty, a grab for soul glory. After the lecture, as congratulations swirl around, you feel a sense of vindication so profound it almost makes you dizzy. The years of poverty, exile, sickness, and obsessive work have all led to this. You have looked into the abyss of a dead civilization and made it speak. The French scholars embrace you as a national hero. Stone by being the one to unlock its secrets for France. But as you catch Thomas Young's eye across the crowded room, you know this is not the end. Proving your system is one thing. Defending it and your legacy will be another war entirely. Your breakthrough, while celebrated in France, is met with skepticism and outright hostility elsewhere, particularly in Britain. The academic world does not simply roll over and accept a revolution overnight. Critics emerge from the woodwork, eager to poke holes in your theory. Many are wedded to the old idea that hieroglyphs must be purely symbolic, a form of mystical allegory. The idea that these sacred carvings could be used for something as mundane as spelling out sounds seems like a profanation to them. Others are simply partisans of Thomas Young, convinced that you, a young upstart from the French provinces, have stolen the Englishman's work and claimed it as your own. You spend the next few years in a state of constant intellectual combat. You must defend your system, prove its validity beyond any doubt, and fend off personal attacks. You work tirelessly, publishing your PR, Ursus du Systemi, Hieroglyphic, a book-length expansion of your letter, A.M. Decia. In it, you lay out the entire system in exhaustive detail, providing hundreds of examples and deciphering the names of dozens of pharaohs, gods, and private individuals. You explain the complex classes of signs, phonetic, ideographic, and determinative demonstrate how they work together. It is a masterpiece of linguistic analysis, the foundational text of Egyptology. A common fact is that this book cemented your reputation and slowly won over the majority of the scholarly community. Its logical consistency and explanatory power were too great to ignore. One by one, your critics fall silent or are marginalized. A lesser-known challenge you faced was the battle of the grammars. As you were developing your system, you weren't just identifying words. You were reconstructing the entire grammatical framework of the language, its verb, conjugations, its use of pronouns, its sentence structure. This was something Thomas Young, with his cryptographic approach, had never even attempted. To prove not only that you could read the words, but that they formed a coherent and consistent language. This involved painstaking analysis of sentence patterns, a far less glamorous task than deciphering the name of a famous pharaoh. but absolutely essential to proving your system was real. During this period, you are also appointed the curator of the Egyptian collection at the Louvre Museum in Paris. For the first time, you have a steady income and direct, daily access to a trove of artifacts. You walk through the galleries, no longer just a theorist, but a practitioner. You can now read the inscriptions on the sarcophagi, the funerary stelae, and the papyrus scrolls firsthand. You can touch the stone and hear the voice of the person who carved it. It's a profound, almost spiritual experience. You spend hours alone in the museum after it closes. A single lamp casting long shadows as you commune with the ancient world you have brought back to life. You organize the collection chronologically for the first time. Based on the royal names you can now read in the cartouches. You are literally rewriting the timeline of Egyptian history. Historians still debate the impact of your personality on the reception of your work. Your arrogance and impatience, which were hallmarks of your youth, did not mellow with success. You could be dismissive of criticism and condescending to those who were slow to grasp your ideas. Did this combative attitude hinder the acceptance of your theory by alienating potential allies, or was it a necessary armor for a revolutionary thinker pushing against entrenched academic dogma? It's likely a bit of both. You are winning the war, but it is taking its toll. The constant work, the endless debates, and the pressure of being the world's sole authority on a newly reborn language are exhausting. Your health remains fragile. But there is one last, great ambition you have yet to fulfill. You have read Egypt from afar, through books and museum artifacts. You have never set foot on its soil. You have never seen the pyramids or the great temples of Thebes with your own eyes. You have to go. You have to see if the reality matches the world you have built in your mind. The dream of a lifetime is about to be realized. You are commissioned to lead a major scientific expedition to Egypt. It is to be the Franco-Tuscan expedition, a joint venture with scholars from Tuscany, led by your friend and student Ippolito Rossellini. For you, this is more than a research trip. After 2 decades spent in the dim light of European libraries, you are finally going to the source, to the land of the sun. The preparations are immense. You assemble a team of artists, architects, and linguists. You pack crates of scientific instruments, drawing supplies, and, of course, books. You are not going as a tourist. You are going as the man who holds the key, prepared to unlock the secrets of the monuments on site. The journey by sea is long and arduous, but your spirits are soaring. As the ship approaches the coast of Egypt and you see the port of Alexandria rising from the heat haze, you are overcome with emotion. A well-known fact about your trip is its massive success in documenting monuments. Of drawings and transcriptions of reliefs and inscriptions, many of which have since degraded or been destroyed. This exhaustive documentation, published posthumously as the Monuments de l'Egypte et de la Nubie, remains an invaluable resource for Egyptologists to this day. A more obscure and personal detail from your journey is your immediate and almost mystical connection to the land. You wrote in your letters home that the air, the light, and even the smells of Egypt felt familiar, as if you were returning to a place you had known in a past life. You felt instantly at home. You adopted local dress, wearing flowing robes and a turban, which you found far more practical in the heat than your stiff European clothes. You felt you could finally breathe. From Alexandria, you begin your journey. Up the Nile, the lifeblood of the civilization you have dedicated your life to. It's a slow journey by boat, and every stop is a revelation. You visit the pyramids at Giza, standing in awe before the last surviving wonder of the ancient world. But for you, the true wonders are the texts. You crawl into burial chambers, your lamp held high, and you read the hieroglyphs on the walls, prayers to the gods, lists of offerings, the life story of the deceased. They are not mysteries to you. They are history, poetry, and personal letters. You move on to the great temple complexes of Karnak and Luxor in Thebes. The scale of the architecture is overwhelming. Forests of colossal columns are covered from floor to ceiling with inscriptions. Other scholars would be daunted, but you are ecstatic. It's the largest library in the world, and you are the only person who can read its books. You run from wall to wall, from column to column, shouting with joy as you recognize the names of pharaohs, read accounts of ancient battles, and decipher religious hymns. Your companions are astonished by your energy. You seem to have been reborn, shedding the sickly persona of the Parisian scholar and becoming a man possessed by a vibrant, ancient energy. Historians still debate the scientific rigor of your expedition. Some criticize you for being too focused on the texts, sometimes neglecting proper archaeological context or making hasty judgments. Were you a true scientific leader, or more of a brilliant, inspired tourist on the grandest tour of all time? The answer is that you were both. You were a man driven by a singular passion for the written word, and in that pursuit you were more thorough and brilliant than anyone. You are living your dream, but Egypt is a land of harsh realities. The heat is punishing, the sanitation is non-existent, and disease is rampant. You are pushing your body far beyond its limits, ignoring the warning signs in your excitement. For now, you are invincible, powered by the thrill of discovery. You are reading Egypt's autobiography, written in stone, and the story is more magnificent than you had ever imagined. Your journey continues south, up the Nile into Nubia, the region that is now southern Egypt and northern Sudan. Here, the landscape becomes more stark, the desert more imposing. The temples are different, too, some carved directly into the living rock of cliffsides. The jewel of Nubia is a Abu symbol, the magnificent temple of Ramesses the Great, with its 4 colossal seated statues of the pharaoh guarding the entrance. You remember this name, Ramesses, the name from the cartouche that, along with Thutmose, provided your eureka moment back in your dusty Paris apartment. Seeing it here, carved 60 feet high into a mountain, is a moment of staggering validation. You arrive by boat, and the sight leaves you and your team speechless. The scale is almost inhuman. The temple had been partially excavated from the sand just a decade earlier by the adventurer Giovanni Belzoni. But you are the first person to arrive who can read its purpose and its story from the walls. You and your team set up camp. The heat is brutal, and the work is exhausting. You spend your days inside the cool darkness of the temple, your eyes adjusting to the gloom. Your artists frantically sketch the reliefs by lamplight, while you move from scene to scene, deciphering the inscriptions. This is where your system is put to the ultimate test. It is one thing to read a name in a cartouche. It is another to read entire narrative passages describing a historical event. A famous discovery you made at Abu Simbel was the correct interpretation of the Kadesh battle reliefs. The inscriptions and images cover an entire wall depicting Ramesses II's great battle against the Hittite Empire. Previous scholars had seen only a confusing jumble of mythological scenes. You, however, can read the accompanying text. You trace the story. The pharaoh's army is ambushed. He is surrounded, and he single-handedly rallies his troops and smashes his way through the enemy lines. You read the names of the Hittite commanders, the captured spies, the different divisions of the Egyptian army. It's a military bulletin, a piece of masterful royal propaganda carved in stone. You are reading a 3,000-year-old newspaper. A much lesser-known and more amusing incident at Abu Simbel involved a bit of scholarly rivalry and graffiti. You notice that many previous European visitors had carved their names into the legs of the colossal statues. Seeing this, you decided to leave your own mark, but in a more fitting style. You instructed one of your team to carve an inscription in hieroglyphs, dedicating your expedition's work to Ramesses himself. It was a cheeky, clever way of saying Champollion was here. Using the pharaoh's own language, you are correcting the historical record in real time. You discover that the Greek historians, like Herodotus, long considered the primary sources for Egyptian history were often wrong. They got names confused, misunderstood religious concepts, and garbled the timeline. You can now bypass them and go directly to the primary sources written by the Egyptians themselves. You compile a king list, a correct chronology of the pharaohs based on the cartouches you find in temple after temple. While it was a revolutionary achievement, it contained errors and conflated some rulers' issues that would take later generations of Egyptologists to sort out. Were these simple mistakes made in the haste of discovery, or did they reflect a deeper misunderstanding of certain dynastic periods? It's a testament to the sheer volume of new information you were processing that you got as much right as you did. The work is taking a severe toll. Several members of your expedition fall ill with dysentery and fever. You yourself are running on fumes, your body racked by fatigue and a persistent cough. You write to your brother that you feel you are paying for your passion, but you refuse to slow down. There is too much to see, too much to record. You are in a race against time, not against a rival scholar, but against your own mortality. Long to process the mountains of data you are gathering. After more than a year in Egypt and Nubia, the expedition turns back north. Your journey down the Nile is a solemn one. You are physically shattered. The relentless work, the harsh conditions, and the ever-present threat of disease have broken your health completely. You are gaunt, your cough is worse, and you are in constant pain. You have given your life's energy to Egypt, and the ancient land seems to have taken it in exchange for its secrets. But your mind is sharper than ever, filled to bursting with new knowledge. Your notebooks are crammed with transcriptions, observations, and the outlines of the two great books you plan to write, an Egyptian grammar and an Egyptian dictionary, the definitive works that will be your legacy. You spend your final weeks visiting sites you had missed on the way upriver, including the Valley of the Kings. Here, in this desolate, sun-scorched canyon, you descend into the tombs of the pharaohs. The experience is different from being in the temples. The temples were public spaces built for gods and worshippers. The tombs are intensely private, sealed chambers meant for eternity. The air is still and heavy with the silence of millennia. The colors of the paintings on the walls are astonishingly vivid, preserved by the perfect darkness. They depict the soul's perilous journey through the underworld, guided by gods with the heads of jackals and crocodiles. This is a well-known part of any visit to the Valley of the Kings, the vibrant, preserved artwork. What is less known is your specific emotional and intellectual reaction. Unlike many of your contemporaries who were focused on the gold and treasures, most of which had been looted in antiquity, you were captivated by the Book of the Dead. You saw the texts on the walls not as morbid spells, but as a profound and beautiful expression of the Egyptian belief in eternal life. You recognized passages from papyri you had studied in Paris, and you could now read them in their intended, sacred context. It was, for you, a deeply moving confirmation of the resilience of the human spirit. You see the tomb of Ramesses the Great, the pharaoh from Abu Simbel, and many others. With your knowledge, you can identify the owners of tombs that had previously been anonymous, restoring their names to them after thousands of years of silence. It feels like you are personally reintroducing them to the world. One of the most significant sites you investigate on your return is the Karnak king list, a carved list of early Egyptian kings. It's damaged and incomplete, but it provides crucial data for your chronological studies. Historians still debate your interpretation of some of the early dynastic names on lists like this one. You were working at incredible speed, often making brilliant, intuitive leaps that were later proven correct. But sometimes your Coptic-based phonetic reconstructions led you astray with the most ancient forms of the language. This highlights the evolving nature of the field you founded. Your work was the indispensable first step, but it would require many more scholars to refine and perfect it. You finally arrived back in Alexandria to sail for France. You are so weak. You have to be carried onto the ship as you watch the coast of Egypt fade into the distance. You are filled with a sense of both triumph and profound sorrow. You have achieved everything you set out to do. You have read the soul of ancient Egypt from its own monuments. But you know with a chilling certainty that you will never return. You also know that you have gathered enough material to keep you and future generations of scholars busy for a century. You have brought Egypt back with you, not in the form of stone artifacts, but in the notebooks and drawings that hold the key to its language and its thoughts. The journey home is a race against death. You must survive long enough to organize your findings, to write the grammar and the dictionary that will ensure your discovery can be taught, learned, and built upon by others. The key is no good if only one man knows how to use it. You returned to France in 1830, not as a conquering hero, but as a ghost. The man who left 2 years ago, full of vigor and excitement, has been replaced by a skeletal figure racked by illness. Your friends and family are shocked by your appearance. You have sacrificed your body for your work, and the bill has come due. Despite your condition, you refuse to rest. You are driven by a desperate urgency, a sense of running out of time. You are appointed to a specially created professorship, the chair of Egyptian history and archaeology at the Collège de France. It is the ultimate academic honor. You deliver your inaugural lectures to packed halls, but you often have to sit while speaking, your voice weak. Your true focus is on your magnum opus. You work feverishly on your Grammaire Egyptian and your Dictionnaire Egyptien. These are not just academic exercises. They are the fulfillment of your life's purpose. The grammar will be the instruction manual, the textbook that will allow anyone to learn the language of the pharaohs. The dictionary will be the lexicon, the treasury of their words. It's a common historical fact that these works were published posthumously by your brother. It's a testament to Jacques Joseph's lifelong devotion that he saw your final, most important work through to completion, ensuring your legacy was secure. A less known aspect of this final period is the sheer chaos of your notes. You had not been working in a linear, organized fashion. Your insights were scribbled on thousands of scraps of paper, some brilliant and complete, others half-formed and contradictory. Jacques Joseph was faced with the monumental task of taking this intellectual volcano, as he called it, and shaping it into a coherent, publishable form. It took him years of painstaking work to assemble the puzzle of your final thoughts. The political situation in France is once again unstable. With the July Revolution of 1830, but you barely notice. Your world has shrunk to your desk, your notes, and the looming shadow of your own mortality. You are short-tempered and reclusive, pushing away all but your closest family. Your rivalry with Thomas Young has a final, sad postscript. Young had died in 1829. While you were still in Egypt, he went to his grave, feeling that his foundational contribution to the decipherment had been unjustly overshadowed. The debate over who deserved the primary credit would continue for decades, fought by the partisans of both men long after they were gone. Historians still debate what you might have achieved had you lived longer. You died at the age of just 41. If you had had another 20 or 30 years of health, would you have solved even more of Egypt's mysteries? Would you have refined your own system, corrected your initial errors, and laid an even more solid foundation for the field of Egyptology? It is one of the great what-ifs of intellectual history. On a cold day in March 1832, you suffer a massive stroke. You linger for a few days, unable to speak, your brilliant mind trapped inside a failing body. Your brother is by your side. Your final coherent words whispered to him as you look upon a drawing of an Egyptian inscription are said to have been Cest Trebot. It is too beautiful. You pass away on March 4th. Your life was a short, brilliant, and violent flame. You burned yourself out in the pursuit of a single, all-consuming goal. But you had succeeded. You had done what no one before you could do. You had given the gift of speech to an entire civilization. The Rosetta Stone, sitting in its glass case in London, was no longer a mystery. It was a primer, an introduction to the world you had revealed. Your death is not an ending, it is a beginning. Your brother, ever faithful, dedicates the rest of his life to organizing and publishing your work. The Grammar Egyptian appears in 1836, followed by the Diction Égyptienne in 1841. These books are your true legacy. They are the tools that allow a new generation of scholars in France, Germany, England, and beyond to follow in your footsteps. You did not just decipher the hieroglyphs. You created the field of Egyptology. You transformed the study of ancient Egypt from a treasure hunt into a historical science. Because of you, we can now read the poetry, the love songs, the shopping lists, the legal contracts, and the religious texts of a civilization that was silent for a millennium and a half. We know the names of their kings and queens, not from the garbled accounts of Greek travelers, but from their own monuments. We understand their complex beliefs about life, death, and the afterlife. We can reconstruct their history, their society, their daily lives with a richness of detail that would have been unimaginable before you. The Rosetta Stone, the catalyst for your entire journey, remains in the British Museum. It is one of the most famous museum artifacts in the world. A common fact is that Egypt has, on several occasions, formally requested its repatriation, arguing that it is a piece of cultural heritage taken as a spoil of war. The British Museum has consistently declined these requests, making the stone a symbol of ongoing debates about colonialism and the ownership of antiquities. An obscure but poignant fact is your own burial place. You are not interred in some grand national monument, but in the Père Lachaise cemetery in Paris, under a simple headstone. Your brother ensured that it was inscribed with your name and a dedication in hieroglyphs, the language you brought back from the dead. It is a fittingly personal and scholarly tribute. Your life demonstrates the incredible power of a single, focused human mind. You were not a soldier, a king, or a statesman. You were a scholar, armed with nothing but books and an unyielding obsession. Yet, you achieved something more lasting than any empire. You built a bridge across 4,000 years, allowing the voices of the past to speak directly to the present. You gave us the keys to a lost kingdom. Historians will always debate the finer points, how much you owed to Young, the flaws in your early chronologies, the personal cost of your single-mindedness. But what is not up for debate is the scale of your achievement. You stand as one of the great intellectual heroes of history, a testament to what can be accomplished through sheer force of will and a burning passion for knowledge. Your work is done. The frantic race is over. The echoes of your discovery now fill the halls of every museum, every university, every library where the story of ancient Egypt is told dot and now. As your own long day of work and worry comes to a close, you can let that story fade into the background. Your journey with the obsessive, brilliant, and fragile scholar is complete. The frantic energy of his discovery, the desperate race against time, can all soften now into a gentle, quiet calm. The ink-stained fingers can relax, the strained, tired eyes can finally close. Let the faint whispers of the pharaohs, unlocked after so many centuries of silence, become a soothing, meaningless hum. Feel the weight of your own day lifting the tension in your shoulders, and your jaw releasing as you sink deeper into the comfort of your bed. The puzzle is solved. The work is finished. There is nothing left for you to do now but to rest